So we're on lesson 5-4, common multiples and common denominators, right? We're getting into fractions here. So we know what multiples are, yes? Multiples of a number, we've already learned that. And what does the word common mean? The same, right? So we found common factors. Now we're going to find common multiples. And we know that multiples multiply. They go higher. They go higher. So let's look at this. The multiples of a whole number are the products of that number and 1, 2, 3, 4. So for instance, if you are going to find the multiples of 4, you take 4 times 1 and 4 times 2 and 4 times 3 and 4 times 4 and 4 times 5, and you keep going. The multiples multiply. That makes sense, right? And they get higher. So when you are saying multiples of 2, 2 times 1, 2, 2 times 2, 4, 2 times 3, 6. So 2, 4, 6. You should be able to kind of list multiples in your brain like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. That is where your math facts come in really handy if you know how to just rattle off your multiples of 4, right? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. If you can do that, that will really help you when you get into fractions and finding common multiples. 5, 10, 15, your 5s are good, right? Here's where it gets tricky. You should be able to rattle off your multiples of 6 and go 6, 12, 18, all the way up, right? Same with 7s. 7, 14, 21, 28. Keep going. If you know those pretty well, this should be fairly easy for you. Multiples that are the same for 2 or more numbers are called common multiples, same as factors. What are the common multiples of 2 and 3? So just like you did factors, you know how you did factors, you made the t, and you did the factor pairs. Common multiples are a little bit easier because you're just going to make a line, right? Here we've got the multiples of 2. So you're going to write down 2, and you're going to write down all the multiples. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, however far you think you should go. Multiples of 3. And they wrote them out here. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Yeah? That's pretty easy, the multiples. And then common multiples, you're going to do exactly how you did for the factors. Let's find which ones are common. Let's see. There's no 2 down here. There's no 3 up there. There's no 4 there. But look at here. We've got 6s are common. We've got 12s that are common. 18. So your list of some common multiples are 6, 12, and 18. Does that make sense? Common multiples of 2 and 3 are 6, 12, and 18. Now you can keep going forever, but we don't need to. We're just going to do a few. Sometimes they ask you to find the least common multiple of 3 different numbers, and you've done that with factors too. So you've done 2 and 3. Now they listed the multiples of 4, and now we are down to just 1 common multiple of 12. Does that make sense? Yeah, not too difficult. So you're going to find the common multiples. Or you could also call them, let me move this up a little bit here. The next thing they want you to do with that is find the least common denominator. Now is when we get to start to use what you know about common factors, greatest common factors, and least common multiples or least common denominators. You know how you typically wanted to find the GCF, the greatest common factor. With multiples, we're going to try to find the least common, right? The first one that you can find that's in common. So, LCD, the least common weight denominator. When did we just switch up into fractions? No big deal here. Least common multiple, least common denominator. Here's how that works. The least common denominator of 2 or more fractions is the least common multiple of the denominators. So, all they're doing is saying, what is the least common denominator of 3/4, 2/5, and 9/10? You want to find the least common denominator because guess what? You cannot do much with a fraction. You can't really do much with it adding or subtracting until you find a common denominator. Do you remember that at all from 4th grade? No? Yes? Okay. We're not going to, I'm just giving you a little bit of a foreshadowing about adding and subtracting fractions. You can't add and subtract oranges and apples. You need them to be common to add them together. in order to add and subtract fractions, when we get to that, which is not quite yet, you need for the denominator to be the same. Is the denominator the same right here? You've got a denominator of 4, a denominator of 5, and a denominator of 10. You can't add and subtract those. It's like oranges, apples, and peaches. Well, I can't add or subtract because they're all different. So you're going to need to eventually, when we get into this, make them all the same. So your job, your first job always is going to be, how do I find a common denominator? A denominator that they could all share. How do you do that? You find the least common multiple of those three numbers, those three denominators. So look right here, 3/4, 2/5, and 9/10. Let's look at those three denominators that aren't the same, 4, 5, and 10. So over here, we're going to list the multiples for 4, for 5, and for 10, and we're going to try to find the least common multiple of those three denominators, all right? So, multiples of 4, they listed them. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Let's just stop right there and see if we can find something in common. These, the multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Let's stop there. 10, 10, 20, 30, 40. So now we've got some multiples. Sometimes you're going to list the multiples and you're not going to find any in common. Then you need to keep going until you find one common one. The first common multiple you find, you're done. Okay, you don't need to find all of them because you'd be going for eternity. So you've got multiples of 4, 5, and 10. What is common? What's the first one that you found that's the same? 20. Oopsie. You've got 20 in each of them. So each of these have a multiple of 20. So it matches. That's all you need to do for this lesson. We're not going to get into the actual adding and subtracting. This is like a prequel. Like this is just the start to what we're going to get into. It's the first step in adding and subtracting fractions is, can you find a common denominator? Right? You got to find it. It's a scavenger hunt. What is, and it's important that you find the least common one. Are there other multiples that are common? Yeah. Eventually, if you keep going with 4, you're going to get up to 40. If you keep going with 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And if you keep going with 10, look, there's a 40 there. So really, you have also a common multiple or a common denominator of 40. But you really want to keep it, girls, look this way, okay? Pencils down. You really want to find the least common multiple, or in this case, it's going to be the least common denominator. Okay, so some things that you will find in your instructions, the greatest common factor. And this is even, for me, sometimes I have to stop and think. You've got greatest common factor, least common multiple, and least common denominator. All right, these are things that you need to be able to look at and say, okay, let me think here. Greatest common factor. We break down the factors and we go lower. So when I list factors, I do it this way. Factors of 40, 1, 40, 2, 20, etc., etc. And I'm going to find a common factor, and then I'm going to find the greatest common factor between two numbers. Or when it goes to the opposite end of the spectrum, you are looking for least common multiples. So you're going to do all the multiples of one, all the multiples of another, all the multiples of another. You're going to find the common ones and find the least. So these initials are really important that you know. That's where vocabulary and math kind of go together. You're going to need to do that. Any questions about these three things? Yes?
On the last one that you did,
Yes.
when it says least common, like multiples or something, wouldn't you do like, how would you get the 20? Because I would think that would be like the most common.
Well, if you look at it, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, this is 5, 10, 15, this is 10, 20. So there's no 4s in either of these two. There's no 5s in either of these two. There's no 8s that match. There's no 10s that match. No 12s. 15 doesn't match all of them. 16. So 20 is the first one of the multiples that all three of them have a multiple of 20. So even though it seems like a large number, it's the first common multiple in all three of these. You have to just kind of keep going until you find one that matches. Sometimes you'll miss it and you'll get to like 40 and you'll pick that one. The answer is still going to be a correct value. It just won't be in simplest form because you kind of went too big. Okay? So let's do a little practice here, and I think sometimes it's easier to put into practice. So let's look at these practice ones. Find the 8 multiples of each number. Let's do 5. Let's just talk them out. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Those are the first 8 multiples. All right, let's do 7. Okay, what do we have for 7? Okay, we're going to go 7 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, 7, 14,
21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56.
Okay, this is where your multiplication backs. You're going to use like bam, 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 or you're going to be like, So try to make sure you know your multiplication backs. This is 7 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're multiples of 7. You multiplied by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Does that make sense? So these ones are pretty easy. What are the multiples of 1?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Yes.
10, 11, 12, 13.
All right. What are the multiples of 11? 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77, 88. All right, so I think you get how to do this.
Wait, what about the 13?
Yeah, we're not going to do all of them, but let's move on. Now it says, now we get into the common multiples. Find the first 4 common multiples of each set of numbers. So this says you're going to have to read the directions. It wants you to find the first 4 common multiples. So let's do 3 and 5. Let me switch here. We're going to do the first 4 common multiples of 3 and 5. So you're going to list them, and then you're going to want to find the ones in common. So nobody's working on anything right now. Your eyes are glued to the board, right? You're paying super close attention. And if you can't, it's okay. Sometimes you need to come right up in front of the board. If I were in this class, I'd be like tired after PE class. I'd be like, I need to sit right in the front. So I just really focus, and I don't have any pencils in my hand to distract me or any people that are next to me. So I would want to come right up close, okay? If you can handle being at your desk, but otherwise come right up here. So let's look here. Multiples. Let's just do a chunk and see if we can get to the first, what did it say, 4?
Yeah.
Want us to find first 4. Okay, so here we go. We got 3.
6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. Wait, 20. Yeah, 27, I was right. Wait, we just passed 40.
Keep going.
Huh? Not 40.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, let's stop there. Let's see if we can find our first 4. Here we go. 5.
10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60.
Okay, let's stop there.
55, 70.
Let's stop there. Let's see if we can find any common ones. Does anybody find any common ones?
Yes.
Where's our first common one? Throw me.
15.
15 and 15. Anything else?
30 and 30.
30 and 30, but it asked for the first 4. So look it, we need to keep going. We haven't found 4 yet. So we're going to need to wrap kind of up here. Let's go to the next row up here. So we've got 30. Then we say 33, 36, 39, 41, 44,
47, 40, 50. Oh yeah, 50, sorry. 53, 50.
Wait. I think we messed up a second here.
No.
Oh yeah, we messed up. Sorry. Let's go back. 39, 42, 45, 48, 51, 54, 57, 60. Okay, let's stop there and see if we can find more. Do we find any more?
Yes, we can.
45 and 60. So what we would do is we would say our common multiples between both of these are 15, 30, 45, and 60. And what is the least common multiple between both of them, Camilla?
15.
Woohoo, right here. Okay?
You're a winner.
Yes, that's a good one. Let's do another one. That one took a while. So don't get mixed up like, oh my goodness, this has got to be wrong. It's taking me forever. It wanted 4 common multiples, right? Typically, you only need to go till you get to 1. When you get to fractions, you just have to find that least common denominator and then go on to the next step. But for this lesson, it's really wanting you to get used to figuring out those multiples. Let's do the first 4 common multiples of
4,
2 and 3. So we've got 2.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14.
Right, 14, yep.
16, 18.
Let's stop.
20.
I'm going to go with just 10 and see if we can do it. Next one is 3.
6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30.
Let's see if we can find 4 yet. Okay, right here, right? 6.
12, 18.
Oh, we need to go a little bit further, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go a little bit further. 22, 24. There we go.
There we go. 24 and 8 times 3 is 24.
Got it? Does anybody have a question about this right here?
No.
No? You think you got that? It's pretty easy. Figure out the multiples, find the common ones, and then typically it will ask you to find the least common multiple or the least common denominator. Let's do one set of the leasts, okay? So let's try this. Let's go with, okay, now you know the multiples. You know common multiples. You know the finding the least common multiple. I'm missing some eyes here. I've got some pencils going. I need all eyes, right? No toys, no distractions. Come up here. If I need you to, I'll call you up here if you've got a pencil moving or stuff going on, okay? Now, you know how to find the least common multiple. Finding the least common denominator, it's the same thing. Except for it's not just a number, it's a denominator. So for instance, if you wanted to find the least common denominator of 1/2 and 1/3, we already did it. Because you need to find the least common denominator of 2 and 3. So we already just did that one, right? You remember we did 2 and 3? So, but the thing is, when you're finding the least common denominator, you only need to go till you find one match. So let's do that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Let's stop. Let's only go for 5, because you don't want to make that all that work for anything. 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, you can stop. Did you find one?
Yes.
So, the least common denominator of these two, the least common denominator that you can find that makes them the same is 6. So what you're going to eventually do, we're not going to get into this, eventually you're going to change both these fractions so they have the same denominator. And then you can add them, you can subtract them, you can do lots of fun stuff with them, but not until you find the least common denominator. And here's how you do it. You find the least common multiple. All right, let's try one that's a little bit harder. And I think you guys got it. Let's try. Okay. If you have 1/3 and 3/5, and they say we want to add these together, but we can't do that until we have a common denominator. What common denominator can you change these to? Because they're not the same right now. That doesn't work. This is apples, this is oranges. You can't add them together. You got to make them like a
Blue.
no,
Like a
what? Orange pole, like an orpole, okay? Like an orange and an apple you can't add, but orples you can add together, right? Because they're like a mush together. So let's change these to the same. So you got to find the orpole. Here we go. How are we going to find the orpole? We're going to take that denominator and this denominator, and we're going to figure out a common multiple, like the least one preferably. So here we go. Let's do it together. Make sure your eyes are up here, right? Because otherwise you're going to get to go do your homework and you're going to have no idea what you're doing. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Let's stop. Let's see if we can find the least common one. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Let's stop and see if we found one. Did we? We found the orpole. It's right here. Pencils down. We found the orpole. It's right here. It is the common multiple. we're going to use this common multiple and we're going to make a common denominator out of these two, which means eventually, not in this lesson, but eventually we're going to say, ooh, let's change this to something with 15 as a common denominator. Let's change both of these into an equivalent fraction that has the same denominator, so then we can add and subtract them. Does anyone not understand how to find the least